You're gonna see. You're gonna hear the digitized sound effects too as I play this. Really, really amazing stuff.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
The Force is strong with this one. Stay on target. Red 2 standing by. Death Star approaching. Extra more you have. Use the Force, Luke. Hidden Force. Death Star approaching.
You can see how cool that music actually is. It is pretty amazing.
R2-D2, what are you doing? Wait for me! Death Star approaching. Extra more you have.
Now the tri-ball feature is pretty awesome, and if I get the tri-ball feature, it's pretty cool too. You'll see that too. See if we get that too.
Get ready for hyperspace. The hyperdrive motivator has been damaged.
There we go.
Standing by. Stay on. The hyperdrive motivator has been damaged. Bravo! Evacuate? No moment of time. I think you overestimate their chance. Great craft, kid. That was 1 in a million.
And you can see how neat this game actually is. It is amazing. Really cool stuff.
Use the Force, Luke. You're speaking of that. Choose wisely, you must. Shoot the Death Star! Star approaching. She's on my trail. Bravo! Just for a second. Death Star approaching. Yahoo!
Let's see if we get another moldy ball. Let's see. There we go.
Standing by.
There you go, guys. There's Star Wars for you. Pretty awesome game, huh? Now it starts out simple, but you'll see it gets hard. It starts to ramp up the difficulty too. The early levels aren't too bad, but once you start getting up in the higher levels, it starts to get frantic really quick. always like the way you can do all these different combos and things too. Really cool stuff. Alright, there we go. Now this one in particular, this has always been a level I always enjoy because the fact there's so many various combos and things you can get here. Really, a lot happening all at once. And sometimes trying to find paths and things to get around them can be pretty difficult too. They can be hard to navigate too sometimes because they like to corner you. All right, so there you get a chance to see what Burger Time's like. Burger Time is like. It's a really cool game. If you get a chance, I highly recommend that you give it a try. Now, this was also made by Konami in 1982. Really, really cool game. I consider this game a classic and one that I enjoy playing a lot. All right, so let me get the volume adjusted up here on it for you. All right, so here we go. Now this is another game that starts out fairly simple but ramps up in difficulty pretty quickly. Now, as you're playing the rounds, the actual number of walls and everything, as I like to say, you have to clear. It's actually displayed up here on the top of the screen. It'll tell you how many you have to actually hit to complete the round. Now, I like to refer to these as walls. I believe that's what they're supposed to be. At least that's what I always thought of them as when I played this. And you can see I played this quite a few times, as you can see here. It just takes some practice to get used to the controls and things, but you'll find you get used to it pretty quick. Now what you'll find as you get on higher levels, some will require you to have 2 hits to pop a balloon, and it varies depending on the level that you're on. It does get more difficult as time goes on, so just keep that in mind too. Now you'll see there I was able to get multiple. Certain arrows can travel farther. I call them the super arrows, and you'll see those up here on the top. Now you want to avoid getting hit by the objects that they're actually throwing at you. You want to try to avoid that, because they do try to hit you with those things. And this is the super arrow I was telling you about on the top here. It flashes when you can get it. It actually flashes when you're able to get it. But you only get so many though, so you don't want to waste them. You want to try to get as many as you can when you grab one of those. Great little game. Now we got to try to see how many of these things we can shoot. Now this is a bonus stage, so see how many of these we can get. Now you gotta see, now the speed picks up a little bit here. It gets a little bit faster. Let's see how we can do here. I think we got one more man left. Let's see. Ah! So you can see it gets considerably harder as you get on the higher levels. There we go. So there you go, guys. So there's Puya. Now, again, a game that's a lot of fun. And I always liked this game because I always thought it was a little bit. I always thought it was a little bit like Dig Dug, and Dig Dug is always one of the games I really enjoyed too. And all the backgrounds and stuff too are pretty cool too. I always thought the backgrounds were pretty nice. And I also like the feature where you can get an extra man too by spelling the letters on top. I always thought that was a really neat touch. In addition to that, also the music too. I always like the simple music too. Oh, let's see if we can get that last one. There we go. And these little cartoons were pretty cool too. Now there's one of the letters. If I get that, I get an extra man. Let's see if we can do it. And there it is. Ah! And you can see how creative you can get with how you do these rounds too. That was another thing. I like the fact too that sometimes the enemies can actually knock themselves out by dropping one of the apples on themselves. I always thought that was a pretty cute aspect too of this game too. So you can see how creative this game actually is. You can really get creative in how you complete these rounds. Alright guys, so there you have it. So there's Mr. Do. Alright. Now I usually like to play this game with as many lasers as I can. I like the lasers, to use the lasers as my option. Works pretty well in this game. And you're going to see the graphics and everything are pretty crazy too. And it's got really, really cool graphics too. That's it. You're going to find the type of weapons that you like to use varies. You know, sometimes I do use other weapons too. Lasers are usually my favorite, but also the shot weapon can also be pretty cool too. And the sound effects too are really, the music and everything was always really cool too. I thought it kind of had a really upbeat soundtrack as well. And you can see like the backgrounds and stuff too are pretty crazy too they got in this too. And here's one of our boss battles. These are always cool too. Ah, there we go.
3, 2, 1, let's go.
You can see the different locales and things they have are really cool too, like the desert and stuff. Had all sorts of different things in this game too. Really, really cool stuff. And look at the clouds and everything, how they have like the backgrounds and stuff like where the clouds and things move. Really, really cool stuff. And you can see this game it gets pretty difficult too, pretty quick. But really, really cool stuff. Definitely a game you want to check out if you have a chance. Alright guys, so there you have it. There's R-Type Leo. Really, really fun game. If you get a chance, highly recommend that you give that game a try. And Cuber was a game Cuber was a game too. I also remember playing too because I remember the cabinets actually had a pinball knocker in them, and when you would knock coil it off, he would actually make the pinball cabinet knock with the pinball knocker. Which I mean, he would make the arcade cabinet knock with the pinball knocker, which I always thought that was a really cool touch too. Some arcades had it enabled, some of them did not. The arcade that I used to go to a place called Cheap Bleeps. They always had that enabled. We always enjoyed that too. Always really fun to listen to that too. Now you're going to find that Q*bert starts out fairly simple, but then you're going to find, you know, at first you just have to change into one color, but then eventually you're going to have to hit each square twice. And sometimes there's levels where if you hit the square, you'll make it the wrong color, then you have to change it back. So Q*bert has a lot of challenge aspects on it too, especially the higher levels. Now I'm going to go to the second level, and you'll see it gets a little more complicated. But it'll tell you what to do in the intros. It'll tell you. And sometimes you'll get enemies like that that actually he'll change the squares to the wrong color, or he can also do it vice versa, depending what color the squares that you have too. So you can see Q*bert is a really, really fun game. It's a fairly relaxing game too. That's another reason I always enjoyed playing Q*bert. I always found it to be fairly relaxing, even on the higher levels. I actually, as funny as it may seem, I actually find that the higher levels, in some ways, actually play easier than the lower levels because it seems like as the speed increases, so does all the fun and everything too as you're playing along too. I think you'll find that too when you play this too. I think you'll find that too. Now, Q*bert was a game also that was ported to quite a few systems over the years too, which is also really nice too. It's a game that's a lot of fun to see. You know how they did things with other systems as well, which you'll find too. I believe the Coleco version had a version of Q*bert, if I remember correctly, as well. That was pretty good too. There we go. And also, I always liked the colors of all the cubes too. I always thought that was really cool. How how all the different colors they use for the cubes and things are really cool too. Always thought that was a nice aspect of this too. And you're going to find too that the little discs that you jump on to kill the snake and stuff, you're going to find that some levels will have more of those than others. That's another thing that made Q*bert really interesting, is the fact that not all the levels have the same number of those things, so some are more challenging, you'll find too, as you play this too. Ah, all right, guys. Well, there you have. So there's Q*bert. Let me go and put my name in here. All right. So yeah, like I said, if you get a chance, I highly recommend that you try Q*bert. All right. So let's go and get some gameplay here on Star Wars. Now I'm using the trackball to actually control this, so it works pretty well in this game too. And that music is absolutely timeless. I'll tell you, you never forget that soundtrack when you play this game either. Even back in the day, this was a great game with that soundtrack. And the digitized soundtrack they had on this was amazing. I remember playing this. I kept thinking, how in the heck did they get the voices so realistic in this game too? That was one of the things that always made it really cool too. Ah, So you guys can see. So you guys can see that is a really, really cool game. It's one of those games I remember growing up with, and it's one I haven't forgotten. And if you do get a chance to play it, I highly recommend you. If you have a chance to play it in the cocktail version, the cockpit version, it is amazing. I don't know how rare it is to be able to find it in the cockpit version. From what I've heard, that's pretty rare. The upright version is great, but if you can get a chance to play it with a full cockpit version, it is amazing. I was very fortunate and thankful I was able to play it in that version as well.